Baldwin County Public School System, considered one of the finest educational environments in the entire state of Alabama, has a history beginning in the latter part of the 18th century, when, as records indicate, Alabama's first public schoolhouse was built in the North Baldwin County community of Tensas in 1799. And at that time, nearly 10 years prior to Baldwin being organized as a county, the area remained geographically expanse. Agriculture served as king, and family farms dotted every section of the county. And in this era of extremely limited highway systems, individual communities built their own respective public schoolhouses, with the Board of Education supplying teachers to provide instruction. In the early part of the 20th century, the Baldwin County Public School System boasted over 80 separate school districts, each with their own individual public schoolhouse. And as time progressed, marked with improvements in transportation and engineering, numerous school districts were consolidated into nearby areas, leaving us today with very few of the original and historic public schoolhouses which distinguished Baldwin County, beginning in 1799, as the birthplace of Alabama's first public schoolhouse. This documentary, commissioned by the Honorable County Commissioners of Baldwin County and honorable members of the Baldwin County Board of Education, seeks to illuminate these few remaining and historic original public schoolhouses in an effort to pay tribute to one of the finest public school systems in Alabama. Located in the North Baldwin County community of Bay Minette, Douglasville High School remains one of the most important educational landmarks here in Baldwin County. Opening its doors in the mid-20th century for black students located within the city of Bay Minette and North Baldwin County, Douglasville High School served as an active educational institution for nearly a quarter century, and thereafter served as a location of Bay Minette Middle School in 1970 for 6th through 8th grades, as a result of integration that took place in the county the year before. As time progressed, this location, serving at the time as Bay Minette Middle School, was converted into use as the Bay Minette Intermediate School to accommodate 4th and 5th grade students from the surrounding area. Today, this location, which began as Douglasville High School, no longer operates as a functioning educational institution in Baldwin County, and although the school was only open for a short time, its former students, recalling memories of the school, still remember the blue and white of their robes as they walked across the stage to receive their diplomas as proud graduates of Douglasville High School.
When I first knew old Douglasville High School, I was very interested to find out that one of the buildings on the campus was a one-room wooden building that had been moved from the community of Latham. That was where I began school when I was 6 years old. The building had been completely torn down, and the lumber that was used, the lumber that came from it, was used to construct that particular building. It was in use for several years after into the 60s, until we built the new masonry buildings around it, and then that building itself was razed, carted off to the dump because it had just been moved so many times. Even the lumber in it was unusable for other purposes.
I graduated from this institution in 1958. I can truthfully say that the instructors at Douglasville High School, especially, I start with the administration, Mr. Roosevelt Anderson Sr., Mr. Leroy Bryant, Miss Nellie Elmo Clark, Mr. Evan McCants, Mr. Willie Thornton. All of these ex-principals of Douglasville High School who served very ably and who served this community well. If I can give a statement that would define this institution, it would be that we are a very storied and a very proud institution who did the best that we could with what we had to work with. If we will take a retrospective view and go back in history of Douglasville High School, you will find that the teachers in many instances spent their own monies for materials, even textbooks. There were no free textbooks at that time. It might sound as if this is untrue, but when I was here at Douglasville High School, we received used textbooks from Baldwin County High School and other white high schools in this county. We also received used athletic materials, but we patched them together and tried to do the best that we could with it. Very proud of what we are doing still, the Alumni Association at Douglasville High School. We award $10,000, in excess of $10,000 each year to graduating seniors at Baldwin County High School. And they must be a graduating senior at Baldwin County High School. And the reason for this is we only serve the students from Little River all the way down to Brumley that go to Baldwin County High School, since Douglasville High School was located in this particular locale. We have been doing this for a number of years. These are academic scholarships, and we have individual alumni members who are donors. They do memorial scholarships in honor of deceased family members who attend Douglasville High School, and sometimes donors pay for scholarships in their own names, and we are very proud of this. I could speak volumes about this institution because I'm very proud of it as an individual. I'm sure that there are many others who could do the same and who could speak as well. On these grounds, as we look around here today, you will see many of the buildings that were here when I was a student at Douglasville High School, with one exception. That is the gymnasium. This is new since I left. We played basketball at the old National Guard Armory. Before that, we played on the outdoor basketball courts. The old football field is being occupied now by the gymnasium and a city recreation facility, which is in the rear of the gymnasium. We have noted graduates. The Honorable Senator Henry Sanders is a graduate of Douglasville High School. Lieutenant Colonel Clarence Gardner is a graduate of Douglasville High School, and he is present today. I could give you a long list of successful graduates of this institution, and I will be talking with Ms. Outlaw in the future about additional history for this institution. Before this was a high school, as I previously stated, it was elementary, junior high school. Douglasville High School became a high school in 1950. In 20 short years, you had some astronomical things to go on at this institution in 20 short years. The schools merged in Baldwin County completely merged in 1970. There were freedom of choice prior to that, which started in 1968. Students from Stockton, Brumley, and other surrounding areas had an opportunity to either choose Douglasville High School or Baldwin County High School to complete their high school career. Some chose Baldwin County High School, but many made the choice of completing their education here at Douglasville High School. And after the merging of the school, personally, I was integrated into the teaching staff and the coaching staff at Baldwin County High School. We were very successful, both academically and in the sports world at Baldwin County High School. And I credited that to the fine group of athletes from both communities coming together under coaches and educators who endeavored to make integration a success. There were minimal problems in the Bay Minette area, and things worked out well, and I'm very, very proud of that, and I'm very happy that personally, and excuse my personal references here, but I'm very proud that I had something to do with that. At the dismantling of this school as a high school, it became Bay Minette Middle School. And the first principal was Owen Lyles at Bay Minette Middle School. I became the assistant principal here at Bay Minette Middle School, and after Mr. Lyles' retirement, I became principal of Bay Minette Middle School, and this was, in my opinion, a high honor for me, being named principal at an institution where I received my education, my high school education, my elementary school education, my junior high school education. So you can call me just a good old hometown boy. And that's what I consider myself as. I was principal at Bay Minette Middle School, and for 7 years, I saw the transferring of Bay Minette Middle School from this site to the old Baldwin County High School. And after Bay Minette Middle School moved to Baldwin County High School, this school became Bay Minette Intermediate School. And now Bay Minette Intermediate School has moved to the old Baldwin County High School site, and these grounds are vacant. And I understand that there are plans to utilize these grounds in a very productive way, and I'm proud of that. We do have on these grounds a monument, and I hope that whatever use is planned for this institution in these grounds, I hope that that monument will remain there, and the inscription on that monument is Douglasville High School, Bay Minette Middle School, and Bay Minette Intermediate School. When there are visitors, especially those who have matriculated through Douglasville High School, Bay Minette Middle School on these grounds, they will be able to see this monument, and this still would be some indication that this was a high school, and we will still endeavor to maintain the the legacy and the history and the proud history of this institution. As I conclude my recollection of the history of this fine institution, I would be rather remiss if I didn't recall some interesting moments here, especially when it comes to the former vocational agriculture teacher, Mr. Evan McCants. He was very instrumental in sending kids to Tuskegee Institute because of the agriculture side of it, but he had a big bull, and his class won this bull at some type of oratorical contest, and he treated this bull as if this bull was a member of the family, and he was a fast talker, and he would always get his, back in those days, it was a different day, and I guess it's a reason that students were more mannerable and more respectable, and you would get whippings. I call it whippings. I don't call it paddling, with belts, switches, and things of that nature. You would go out and have to break your own switch and get 2 or 3 and put them together, and the boys would get rocks when they would get angry with Mr. McCant. They would get rocks and throw at the bulls. And so one day he hid out, and that is his house right behind the school, and he still lives there. He hid out in the bushes, and and he was a lieutenant in the Air Force and in the Army, and he was a proud graduate of Tuskegee Institute, and so he would write everything down. He wrote every name, correct spelling, the initial, all the boys who were throwing at the bull. And the next day when he called roll, he started calling the roll, and the students started looking around, and none of these people were in the room. And he said, go to this room, and bring these people here. And so they brought all of the boys in who threw at the bull. He said, you threw at my bull, you threw at my bull, and so go get me a switch. And he palled all of these students right in front of the class, and I guess today they would call HR on you someone for that, but that was the humorous time then. Mr. Leroy Brown, prior to becoming principal of the school, he was a legendary coach and a history teacher, and also, just look at this combination, also the chorus teacher. And he had a finger that he had got mashed, and it was very large. And once he pointed that finger at you, you knew that you was in trouble. So he would point the finger, he said, you, and he would beckon, you know what that means. So at that time, if you were disorderly in class, you got a paddling. It's simple as that. And you better not go home and tell mother, father, you got another one. And you better not say anything going home. Anyone could come out of the house and paddle you again. That's the way it was. any person, it didn't make it any different. So when he would point at you, and you would know to get up and come up and get your paddling. So Douglasville High School was a very orderly school. There was no mention of suspension or expulsion. We didn't know what that meant. There was no mention of what we call talking back to a teacher, what a colloquial term you might use, sassing a teacher. You didn't do that. It was yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. If you had homework, you did it. if you were supposed to be in class at 8 o'clock, you were there at 10 to 8. It was just as simple as that. So we have a lot of things to be proud of Douglasville High School. Personally, I would not be the person I am. I would not have been the man that I am. I would not have had the opportunity to get a formal education at Tuskegee and at Alabama State University. I would not have had the opportunity to meet and greet people that I've met over the years. I've had the opportunity to serve on the Board of Governors at Alabama State University. I had the opportunity to be named a small college All-American in football. I've had glorious opportunities because I came from an institution who prepared me well. And above all, it is good to be able to live in the best country on the face of this earth to also afford me these opportunities. So I'm just proud of that. And I thank you all for giving me this opportunity to sing the praises of this institution.
Graduate of Douglasville High School, graduate of Tuskegee, Howard, University of Florida, University of West Florida, and retired Lieutenant Colonel in the Air Force. Okay, and I am right now a senior aerospace science instructor at Baldwin County High School. I have a bachelor's in engineering, master's in engineering, master's in mathematics, master's in business administration, and a doctorate in engineering. I started my Douglasville education at the elementary school in the 3rd grade, moving here from Florida. And after graduating from the elementary school, I came up here to Douglasville High School from my 7th through the 12th year. And one of the things that we learned that during this time, that we still had our cafeteria down at the elementary school. So at lunchtime, we would go back and get on a bus and ride back down to the cafeteria to be able to have lunch. We also found out that one of the things about Douglasville High School were that we were a real family. We didn't have any real labs, but we had the great technical education thing. And that is particularly true for me as a mathematician, scientist, etc. That we didn't have any lab, but we had great theory. In fact, our teachers, as earlier has been mentioned, that we didn't have a lot of the great books, and we didn't have some lab, but we went back to be able to order or try to bring in some extra books and things in which we were able to be able to have some classes with. And we were able to have some advanced math and also be able to do some chemistry classes, which turned out to be very valuable as I later went to Tuskegee to be able to major in engineering. After graduating from Tuskegee and engineering, I went to the Air Force and started working at the Air Force Flight Test Center as the chief of the instrumentation division, where we were then being able to test some aerodynamic deceleration type activities. As we moved forward from there, I moved up to headquarters of the Air Force System Command, which is the headquarters for our research and development in the Air Force, and started to being able to work activities there, which were looking at missile launches and also being able to look at operational satellite radars, telemetry, and satellite type activities. After moving from there, I went and got a master's in engineering at Howard University. And having finished a master's in Howard University, I went out to what was then out to San Bernardino, California, at Norton Air Force Base to be able to work in ballistic missile design. So we were looking at the design of new missiles like the MX. After being able to finish there, I went to the University of Florida for a doctorate in engineering. Having completed a doctorate in engineering, I went to work for the Air Force Office of Scientific Research at Bolin Air Force Base, in which is basic research, as the director and program manager for electronics and material sciences. Having completed my assignment at the Office of Electronics and Material Science, I went to the Defense System Management College, which focuses on doing a lot of advances in technology. I went to the Joint Chiefs of Staff over at the Pentagon working as a surveillance officer and command communications systems, and also being able to be the chief of the strategic branch at the Joint Chiefs of Staff, in which case we were making things in terms of being able to do space surveillance. When I left the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I went to Vandenberg Air Force Base as the chief of the Missile Flight Control, as chief of Missile Flight Control Center, and also as the chief of operational safety, which cases we had a chance to be able to launch more than 100 satellites into orbit, in space orbit. So we're fortunate enough to be able to have it that the humble beginning from Douglasville High School, which started off teaching us theory. We did not have any of, as I said, the labs, but because of the great theoretical background that they gave us, we were able to succeed in our college and other activities. And we think in terms of anything here with our storied background, as Mr. Cox had indicated, that we find that it was so much that our instructors were instilling into us that we could do it. No matter what we had, they were always telling us you can and you can be good, and they were encouraging us to be able to do well. And so we were fortunate enough to have that kind of humble, and also the background of having someone there to be able to support us at all times. That too has also instilled something into us to make sure that we wanted to be able to give back. So that's why we've been so active in being able to have our Douglasville Alumni Association and other things. And also for coming back and working in the community and things. After retiring from the Air Force, I came back and I started doing some math in junior college, a little bit of engineering over at the University of South Alabama, and also as I started to being able to become a senior aerospace science instructor here over at the Baldwin County High School. I wanted to be able to go back and make sure I continued because I discovered I had cancer, and I didn't want to be able to be in some of the laboratories and other things, and this does give me an opportunity to continue to be able to give back and work. So I've been fortunate in that aspect, that we are able to kind of go back, and we're having a very good unit of about anywhere from 107 to 121 students over here at the ROTC department at Baldwin County High School. I look at all of my accomplishments and take them back to Douglasville High School. When we look at Douglasville High School, I start looking at the idea that I started taking the math and the science classes even in the 7th grade, even though we didn't have the greatest of books. And in a lot of the cases, we had to add classes. So by the time I had finished high school, I'd taken a number of advanced math classes as well as, say, chemistry, which were added. My instructors also wanted us to be prepared since I was going into the scientific career field. They decided I didn't need a study period, that I could also take both advanced math and chemistry. And that turned out to be a great blessing when I went to Tuskegee and other things, that they kind of made it possible for me to be able to do well and be able to graduate in engineering. When we started to look at, we would go back and we would buy some current event type books, or we'd be able to buy some books and just bring them in to be able to kind of help us as students so that we could be able to get better. And we likewise had it doing it in one of the cases that would go back and just teach us vocabulary type words, because that was going to be able to be something that turned out to be very well. It's so important for us. So we spent a lot of time just looking in the dictionary and other things, and also being able to pull words so we can become better in terms of vocab. And so as a result, that kind of helped us as well for us being able to pass any tests and not worry about having to be able to do any remedial studies, that everything could be able to count for us in class-wise. The other thing is that we were all very close, and as a result, we also, we played all our sports and other stuff together, which was fortunate enough also to be on football and basketball teams and things as well. So we developed kind of close-knit, and as Mr. Cox had talked about earlier, if we got into any trouble, we weren't going to just be in trouble with the teachers, we were going to be in trouble with our parents or anybody else in the community. And our parents seemed to know before we would even be able to get home what had happened. And so usually we weren't just getting a whipping from the teachers there, we would likewise be able to get it when we were at home as well. We were all, it seemed as if though as well, whatever we were good at, we were willing to be able to kind of help the others. And so it was almost like our teachers, our church members in the community, and our students, we were all sort of like family. In fact, you know, so many of us are, right now, we consider ourselves like, you know, like brothers. And when we get together for any Douglasville alumni or other association, all of us are very important people. We just seem to really enjoy each other, and it's a time in which our spirits are lifted. And that's one of the things that's also had us to be able to be more determined, to be able to kind of keep this, the history of Douglasville going and trying to be able to help others so much so. So we are very proud of our beginnings. So we look at it and we see that we got people in almost every category, our lawyers, our businessmen, our pharmacists, every aspect in which you can be able to have. We have it from Douglasville High School out of that short 20 years. And look like people have made tremendous accomplishments in every area. And then, so as I said, we're very proud. Senators, as I said, big-time businessmen and things of that nature. So we're very, very fortunate in terms of what we had here from this Douglasville legacy. And we want to be able to continue to be able to see that the people at Baldwin County High School get that same opportunity to be able to advance. I had been taking all of the advanced math classes. And as I said, I had, you know, one study period. But later on during that class, all of my teachers and principals decided that I should also be able to take chemistry as well. And in taking the chemistry class, the other students had been in the class for about the first semester or so, and I had not taken the first semester of class. So it was necessary that I come in and be able to catch up, and since I had done well, that by the time the other seniors and other people were graduating, our chemistry teacher decided that, you know, I could be able to take some additional classes. But rather than going back and going over some of the things that were remedial, she took me to some advanced stuff. So I got a chance to be able to do some advanced chemistry and during that time. And so our chemistry teacher, who was a young teacher, had just come back from Alabama State, then started being able to give me advanced work and be able to get me ready for chemistry rather than going back and just say, do remedial things. So I wound up getting more advanced chemistry than any chemistry students because they knew that I was going into science and engineering, and they wanted to be able to help prepare me for that. Well, actually, in terms of when I look at it, I have a number of them. First of all, Mr. Anderson as a principal, looked like from the 7th grade on, he started to being able to help make sure I got a lot of classes. I had a math teacher named Mr. J.C. Bryant, who was teaching me about most of my math class, as well as Miss Horn, not Miss Horn, Miss Johnson. And then I had Mr. J.C. Bryant, who was doing a lot for us in the civics, and Mr. Everett McCants. He taught us vocational agriculture. And in vocational agriculture, we would always not only have our classes here at school, but we would go back and enter contests where Mr. Cox was talking about him winning the bull. We would have a quartet that would be entering the contest. You know, it was sort of like an agricultural quartet that we would go back and do. It would always also have the quiz contest, which I was our quiz contestant at that time. And then there was also a judging contest, which is judging of the bull, and that's how some of the people will go back and win. So Mr. McCants also had an area where you could go back into the woods and be able to get certain little wooden artifacts that you could make great lamps. So we were then going back and making tremendous lamps and other things so that we could then go back and have for our rooms. So rather than going out and buying lamps, we had some great artifacts that he could find out at the woods in Little River that we could come back and be able to make lamps and other things from. So it looked like we were improvising. So no matter what we needed, so if we didn't have it, it looked like we would go back and get some things to be able to allow us an opportunity to be able to get a little bit farther in advancing what we do.
Tell me about your sports here.
I got a chance to be able to play sports out there as football. Got a chance to be able to be both sort of like a wide receiver and also defensive back. And basketball was more like a point guard. I didn't make All-American like he did. I was okay, but not the greatest or something there. Not the greatest to be able to make. Was able to make first strand, but not good enough to be All-American or super thing. Well, at graduation, you know, we had kind of relatively small classes and stuff here during that time. So in my class, it's like about 38 of us or so graduating. But you know, our graduation here in the, we didn't have, we had to almost be able to use some downtown and other kind of facilities and things, so we didn't have big graduation ceremonies and stuff there during that time. Essentially, we'd be outside in front of, you know, the buildings here and being able to move. But I was fortunate enough to be able to be elected as valedictorian for our class during that time. Now we had in our class, the class of 60, which is also one of the storied class, and that's where you have some of our people who are our Senator, Hank Sanders, the state senator, and likewise our big businessman, Dr. Bill Cox, and a number of people who came from that class. So we had a number of people. In fact, we thought almost everybody in the class of 60 could be able to make it in anywhere in this world. So we were very proud of the class of 60 as a whole. Looked like everybody seemed to have been able to do well in that class. And so we kind of fed on each other and helped be able to kind of grow and be able to help each other grow. And we're still real close as a family. In fact, now when we have our reunions, we got even closer with that class, so they're 58. So because we had a number of our common interests, and so 58 and 60, we have our class reunions together and have developed an even closer relationship with them from that viewpoint. If you would pass, we had a teacher named Miss James, and so she was our English teacher, and she could make some real frowns and stuff on her face. And if a student come by, you know, sometime we'd hear somebody come by, or you go back and say something wrong in English, boy, she would have that frown or something come on her face, and as they say, if looks could kill, then she would probably be able to get you. So about everybody was kind of afraid of Miss James, and if they go back and make any of those mistakes, they kind of learn from them very quickly and things, you'd be able to come back.
The Douglasville community is a part of Bay Minette that values education in the highest way possible. Even by the turn of the century, there were homes in this African-American community that were used as educational facilities. The first recorded school that we have photographs of was a wooden building, and most likely was a Julius Rosenwald school, one of the 14 that we had in Baldwin County, and it was just off Hurricane Road, and it served students in grades 1 through 8. The students that finished 8th grade there had the opportunity to go to Baldwin County Training School in Daphne for their high school education. It was the only African-American high school in Baldwin County until about 1950. In about 1950, Douglasville High School building was built, and the elementary school, original elementary school, still serves students for a while. In fact, there are stories of the high school students going back to the elementary school to have lunch until their cafeteria was completed in the newer building of Douglasville High School. Later, that original wooden building was moved to the side, and then the lumber was used in ways to do other construction as needed. The Douglasville High School building itself served grades 1 through 12 for a period of time that has left such a legacy of people who have become influential and have produced outstanding reputations. The alumni who attended the school are part of an organization today that is one of the most viable organizations I know of. The Douglasville Alumni Association meets annually and presents awards to outstanding graduates and to people who have done service to their community. They placed a plaque at the Douglasville High School that is an action that needs to be copied in every building, historic building that we have. They have listed on there the different ways and the different names that the school has been throughout the years. Of course, it was Douglasville High School at its original erection, and then it became the Bay Minette Middle School, which was grades 6, 7, and 8, before it later became the Bay Minette Intermediate School. During the years from 1969 until 1991, when it was the middle school, The school garnered much attention from the state for outstanding middle school programs. But most people in Baldwin County remember it as the location of the greatest tragedy in schools in Baldwin County history, the tornado of Bay Minette.
I was the assistant principal for Baldwin County High School, assigned to the Bay Minette Middle School for a number of years, and then became the principal there somewhere during that time, 19 years that I served on that campus. I went there in 1970 with the beginning of full integration. I had been the principal in Stockton prior to that, and assumed the duties of the middle school, which was a fairly normal thing to have happened in schools all over the country, where the formerly black schools were reconstituted as a middle school, and the local high schools became the high school for both races. The buildings on the Douglasville campus, which was the formerly black 12th grade school, had begun with some wooden buildings much, much earlier. I'm not even sure, prior to World War I, I'm sure. I mean, World War II. And then the first brick constructions occurred about 1955 or 60, somewhere along that line. Then during the middle 60s, the rest of that brick complex that is still there, as well as the gymnasium, was constructed, and the old wooden buildings were removed and discarded as, of course, not being of any use anymore. When I arrived there in 1970, we used all but one wing of the building, because that first year the 6th grade stayed at the old 5th Street location in close to downtown Bay Minette, where today the Bay Minette Elementary School and the Bay Minette Middle School exist on that campus as of now. But at that time, the high school and the elementary school were at that location, and the middle school was at Douglasville. Since then, there's been a new high school constructed on the bypass, and the changes have occurred. The trade school has been built next to where I was once located in Douglasville. And of course, we get on down to the time when the most memorable event occurred was the tornado that came in my 11th year on that campus. It was in 1981. And in February, we did have intercom systems at the time, and it was our customary practice to have frequent fire drills to get people out of the building. As a matter of fact, we were required to have fire drills and remove people from a building in case of fire, and we had signals that everyone knew what to do. A bell ringing and a short burst of urgent sounds was the drill to get out. The morning of this storm, we knew that the skies were dark and sort of forbidding looking, but that wasn't too unusual. In South Alabama, we see those kind of weather conditions frequently. We even hear the urgent calls by news media all the time about the weather is bad, and they are rather dramatic in their presentation, and most of us paid little attention to it because nothing ever happens. On that particular morning, I was in my office, which is sort of back in the office complex. My shades were drawn, and I didn't really realize how dark things had gotten outside. One of my secretaries came to me and told me I needed to come out because things were really looking bad outside. It wasn't windy, it wasn't raining, it was just extremely dark. And I went to the front, and as I approached the front of the office, the wind began to pick up and blow, and I decided to issue a warning for everybody to get on the floor. And as I reached for the intercom to turn on the all-call button to talk to everyone at the time, the power went out. And the storm was in progress, and I did the same thing that everybody else does when pine trees are coming through windows in your room. We had one come in the office about that big around, and people asked me later on, what does a tornado look like? And I said, it looks like a little piece of floor, because that's where you are, is down on the floor looking at it with your hands over your head, because things are pretty bad with glass flying and so forth. It lasted perhaps 20 or 30 seconds. It seems like much longer than that when you're involved in this kind of thing. But my secretaries were on the floor and under desks and against cabinets and so forth. And I think there was maybe one child in the office at the time, and that child, I can't recall whether I was able to get that child on the side of my counter, which separated the little lobby from the other people, or not, but the child wasn't hurt. When the thing stopped, of course, we immediately realized what it was, and I could see across the front of my campus that my gymnasium no longer had any walls. The roof was intact. The structure was not askew in any way, but the brick walls had disappeared. The front wall had blown out, the back wall had blown in, the side walls above the band rooms and dressing rooms had caved in, and it was just an open air structure at that point. My first reaction was to run that direction. I did not even look back towards my classrooms. I didn't realize that I had lost 19 classrooms in the course of this 20 or 30 seconds. I went straight towards those gymnasium because I could see that terrible things had occurred there. As I ran across, I told my secretary before I left, call 911, call ambulances and all the help that we can get. As I started across the campus, power lines were down everywhere, and some kid, I cannot remember his name, he was a child that had been in my office a number of times for misbehavior problems, came out of a classroom and hollered at me, Mr. Lyles, is there anything I can do to help? And I said, yes, stay in this location. Don't let anybody step on any wires. They may be live. And I went on to the gymnasium, and there I found one child in the middle of the floor, unconscious, bleeding from the head, and one of my PE teachers was approaching, and I asked her to check to see if he was alive. She felt a carotid artery. He was alive, and I told her to stay with him. We'd get ambulances there as quick as we could. One of the other PE teachers approached, and I asked him to gather a crew of kids and start looking under the rubble of these collapsed walls to see if anybody was trapped underneath anything. We did discover one other child. Oh, by the way, that first child did have a depressed skull fracture and was in Mobile Hospital for a little less than a week and was released and in good condition. There was one other child in the gymnasium that did have a skull fracture and got out also pretty quick. Other than that, the total injuries in the campus were relatively minor. Cuts, bruises, sprained backs, that kind of thing. I think only 3 or 4 people actually spent the night in the hospital except those two children with skull fractures, which, by the way, occurred with flying concrete block. They will hurt you if they fly through the air. The others were treated and released the second day, kept for observation in the local hospital. As soon as I left the gymnasium, I then realized that all of these classrooms had lost their roofs. And the roofs were composed of a textured concrete mixture with fiber, which made it very light. Not so light that it didn't stay in place, but in a tornado, these things lifted, and some of my teachers reported that they actually saw them as they peeped out from under desks floating in the air. When the storm was over, there were some of these things that were lodged high in pecan trees in the location. And we have pictures that were taken by news media and so forth of those sort of strange-looking things in the building. But in hindsight, at the time, I thought, oh, this construction is bad. This has caused our problem. But in hindsight, I think that may be the reason nobody died, because this material was light, and when it fell, when the swirling storm was over, and this stuff fell on these children, it didn't hurt anybody badly. If it had been conventional roof construction with tons of material, there would have been a good many people crushed. You see, with 19 classrooms gone, that represents several hundred people crouched on the floor beside desks, and we have pictures of desks with the steel frames that were bent double from stuff falling. But these kids did instinctively what you're supposed to do, and that is crouch on the floor against walls, under furniture, material, and cover your heads, and they did it. The heroes were all over the place. Mr. Smith has said that when he arrived there that day, he saw teachers and children doing what they were supposed to do. The only panic that he observed were a few parents that were distraught over the excitement of the event and the worry of their child. I remember one parent that hyperventilated and had to be carried away in an ambulance. But our teachers and students were, I thought, magnificent. Did more instinctively what they were supposed to do, certainly than any direction from me, because I was not able to give them the warning that we ordinarily would give. After it was over, we asked all the adults on the campus to write a little short story, a paragraph or so of the events. And somewhere in each of these accounts of the thing, they said, and the lights went out. So we used that phrase as a theme for a little booklet that we put together with these different stories from the perspective of the different people that were involved. And Mr. Smith did the editing and helped put it together in a format that we printed and shared with one another. We never did, of course, publish it or anything, but it was, some teachers were not able to relive this in writing, so they didn't participate. It was too traumatic for them. But as I recall, nobody needed any counseling, and we didn't have anybody that did any breakdowns or anything. We went right on back to work in a few days, and we relocated to the First Baptist Church in Bay Minette with all of our 7th and 8th graders. And I recall that we stayed there, I believe, for a total of 3 weeks until the building was reconstructed in fantastic time. There were over 200 people that were garnered by our local contractor to put that building back in touch and back in use. And you can't imagine how fast something can be done when people put their minds on it and put enough people on it to do. But in 3 weeks' time, we were back in that building. And in full operation. One interesting thing I thought at the time, and still think it's rather interesting, we relocated to the First Baptist Church, and several of the people from our central office offered to help with textbooks and rescheduling so children would know what room to go to, and etc. But they didn't really understand that the format of the way our school was organized anyhow. We had 4 teachers on a wing of a building that each of the 4 major disciplines were next to one another, and the Baptist church was constructed in a way that there were 4 rooms in a little pod with a little central connection in their Sunday school wing. So we just put our 4 teachers in those 4 rooms, and they went on in business with 3 minutes worth of instructions about where to go and what to do. It just worked out perfectly. New York Times articles that were on the front page. By the way, I had a phone call that morning, no more than 10 minutes after the storm. Emergency vehicles were still arriving, and we got a phone call from New York. Is it true you've had a tornado at your school? And this was from the New York Times. They had picked it up apparently on a 911 emergency call, and it got on a wire service immediately, and somebody picked it up, and they called and confirmed, yes, we're in the middle of this thing. We hadn't got time to talk to you. And they did photographs and ran a front page story in the New York Times about the thing. We were nearly a year reconstructing the gymnasium. It took us almost a year because that was deemed not vital to the operation of the school. And you've got to remember, in those days, money was so terribly short. We were just begging for this, that, and the other, and 1 year later, we did get back in our gymnasium. But the amazing thing about those gymnasiums, they are constructed, the framing is with laminated wood, and that laminated wood did not move. It did not require any straightening up or anything. They just put them right back together. And each of these other gymnasiums have also lost walls, but the roofs and the framing, never a bit of problems with any of those. So I've been interested in construction, and that's sort of fascinating to me. I had a local city policeman that showed up at my campus one day with another rumor, like somebody's got a gun at school, and I'd go chase down the gun, and it would be a water pistol, and then I would do this or that. You know, you always run these things down. On this particular morning, this man came and said he'd had a phone call from a parent that there was a child at school that was supposed to have some dynamite. So, yes, we go check out everything that you hear. No matter how minor it is, you go check it out. So I called in the kid who was supposed to have brought this stuff to the school, and got him in the office, and was not very patient or kind about my interrogation, because I felt like we needed to get an answer to that very quick. And he said, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. But so-and-so's got it. Well, where's that child now? And he told me he was in a classroom. And I could still envision the cardboard core of a roll of toilet tissue painted red with a string on it, and this is dynamite. This is exactly what I thought I was going to get. When I went down to the room, and I was told that this is in a coat pocket in a desk, under a desk, I immediately went to that child and said, is that where it is? He said, yes, sir. And I got it and started back to the office and felt in the thing, felt something that was not cardboard there, and got on up to the office, pulled it out for the policeman to look. Not only was it a stick of dynamite, it was also the fuses and the caps with the thing. So we got it off the campus real quickly, and then I did the normal things with children that do things like that. We followed our regular procedures for punishment. But but that was perhaps a little more exciting than a tornado to me personally. It did not receive any news media attention. In those days, we felt like those kinds of things would cause more excitement than they warranted. We took care of the situation as quickly and efficiently as we could, but we saw no purpose in media being involved.
I would like to say one more word about that tornado. The training that those children had just been given is what saved their lives. Owen Lyles took to heart the admonition from the State Department of Education to conduct meaningful tornado drills. And his leadership in that particular phase of school operation saved some lives that day. I'm certain of it. I was at the school bus shop in Bayonet when it happened, and a secretary happened to be talking to Mr. Lyle's secretary, taking the morning school bus report, the trouble report. Every morning we received a report from every school in Baldwin County of any problems that any school bus driver might have had with his school bus that morning, so that it could be fixed during the day. And that secretary was delivering that school bus report. And our secretary handed the phone to me. She said, "Mr. Smith, you need to hear this." So his secretary told me what was happening. And she said, "Mr. Smith, come, we need you." And I jumped in my car, and I couldn't get to the school. I could get no closer than the Hurricane Road, and ran through the debris around I couldn't get in the front part of the school at all. I made my way in from the rear. And it was a sight of devastation. Children and teachers were moving about like ants in an ant hill that had been disturbed, but there was absolutely no panic. They were simply moving about, looking out for each other. I moved through the building and made contact with Mr. Lyles in front of his gymnasium, where he was just loading the last of the injured children into the ambulance. And he and I made some quick plans. We agreed that the next thing that we needed to do was to evacuate those children. And the only way we knew to do it was to bring in school buses and take them to an intact school. We didn't know what might have happened to the other schools. We didn't know where the tornado went at that particular time, but we didn't know any problem. So we asked for volunteers. We called for volunteers among the mechanics. Everybody, every mechanic, every employee at the school bus shop, grab a spare school bus, or any school bus you could find, and make your way to the back. Now, there was no way we could get away in the front, and I organized a little group of parents who had showed up to move by hand enough of the debris that was in the way, and enough that we could bring those buses into the back of the school behind the cafeteria. We had to move a light pole, and we did it by hand. But the buses came in, and we transported the children over to Bayonet Elementary School and some to the high school. And we felt like they would be looked after there, and we told our parents where they were. It was the single most traumatic physical event that I ever witnessed in a school during my career with the Board of Education. It required a miracle, and it required superb training of both teachers and children in tornado procedures that avoided serious injury and death.
I was asked the questions about this big oak tree. This tree was here when I was a student, and this tree is still here. It was here when I was principal. It was here when I was a teacher at this school. This old oak tree is in my opinion, is part of the history of this campus. It was here when I was a student. It was here when I was principal of this school, and I can give you some interesting stories about this tree. This tree has been used for different purposes. When I was a student, every now and then we would hide behind this tree and slip a kiss from our girlfriends. So when I became principal, I knew all the tricks. During recess, especially when the bell sounds and everybody head back toward class, there are some who would wait around to get a kiss. So I would go over and stand behind the doorway in the gymnasium so I could see, and I would see who we had a no touching policy when I was principal, but when I was student, all was fair. I got many kisses under this tree, but I knew all the tricks. So I would go over and stand behind the door and watch the students that they would get their kiss, and then I would come and call them to the office. I said, "Are you aware of our no touching policy? Did I not see you kissing?" No, sir, no, sir. I said, "Oh, yes, I did." I said, at the same time, you did plant a smack upon. I would give the name of the person, and they would confess because they were kind of afraid to give me a erroneous story, because I never did really ask a question I didn't already know the answer. You will find that old teacher would be like that. Don't ask student questions that you don't already know the answer, because 9 times out of 10 they would give you a story that maybe not literal. But this tree has a lot of history. I don't know what happened after school hours under this tree, but I do know what happened during school hours. And I will leave it to the imagination on anything else after school hours. But again, let me say to you who have seen fit to do this, we do appreciate it. We appreciate your interest. We think that this history has been lost, and I'm so very delighted that you have endeavored to try to recapture it. And Clarence and I are delighted to help you with this. We thank you for that. And finally, let's give a round of applause to those courageous, God-fearing, enterprising teachers and administrators at Douglasville High School who endeavored to instill in us that you can be the best that you can be. All you have to do is roll up your sleeves and study and study and study. They also used to always quote Abraham Lincoln. Always said that if you prepare yourself, then you will be ready when the time comes. And certainly many Douglasville graduates have been ready to meet the challenge, and we thank those courageous teachers who had to do with much less than teachers have today, who had to spend their own money, who had to come early and stay late, who had to succumb some of the most astronomical barriers in order to educate those kids who were kind of left out of the loop. And I was one, but thank you very much. Thank my teachers, both living and dead, And again, thank you.